Thank you very much, Joel and Pam, and really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time this morning. And there's a number of familiar faces here, so hello to people I know. I know.
Progress.
Hello.
I will turn it on.
Doesn't like my accent, does it? No. Okay, so I really appreciate the opportunity today to speak to you, and we do hope you find the session of interest. We're pretty sure you will find it of interest, because we're talking about Swindon Town Centre, and we've all got our views on Swindon Town Centre, and so it'd be good to get your views in this session. So how we're going to approach it is we've got a 25-30 minute, something like that, presentation, and then that'll be followed by a workshop type session to get your views on what we say, and also to get your views generally on how the council can better enable the voluntary sector to support regeneration of the town centre at a grassroots level. So good to get your views on that. So there's three of us today from the council. So there's Sam Rackham. You give a wave, Sam.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Sam Rackham. I'm a project manager in the town centre development team, and I work on some of the larger projects in the town centre. So looking at things like the cultural quarter is one of the key projects we're looking at the moment.
So that's Sam, and then we've got Karen Fimister. You want to say a few words, Karen? Or not?
That bodes well for later, doesn't it?
Oh dear, totally incompetent, sorry. Anyway, thank you very much. I'm the Heritage Action Zone Project Officer, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a project which is trying to exploit Swindon's wonderful heritage in order to support our town centre regeneration.
And then you got me as well. Don't worry, I won't be speaking for much longer. You'll be glad to hear you get people with a proper accent, Queen's English accent speaking. So I'm David Stewart. I used to be the planning manager. I used to be head up the planning department, but I don't do that anymore. I'm a head of strategic place. So my role, what it boils down to, is basically trying to improve the livability of the town, to improve quality of life of the town, and big focus of mine is on the town centre for that reason. So there's a number of elements to enhancing and improving our town centre. You got the big regeneration schemes, you got infrastructure investment, how we maintain and look after the town centre, its look and feel, and how to feel safe and welcoming, how we improve transport and accessibility into and around our town centre. And there's bottom-up or grassroots activities. How do we enable local businesses and groups to have a more active role in improving the centre? So there's lots of elements to town centre regeneration. We're not going to cover everything today. We will be updating you on the some of the big regeneration schemes coming forward in the next 2 or 3 years. Actually, some of them coming forward right now. So we'll be updating you on those. We'll also be talking about the Heritage Action Zone, and we think this is an excellent example of collaboration between the council and businesses and community groups and other stakeholders like Network Rail, proper true collaboration in enhancing that area. So we're talking about that, and we'll also be talking about grassroots regeneration activities and how the council can better support these. My dog's playing up. So that's what we want to cover today. And I think before we get into the presentation, I think it's worth to note, it's not the council's town centre, it's our town centre, it's everyone's town centre. It belongs to the residents and the communities of Swindon, so it's a really important point to make. And how the council can best enable or support grassroots regeneration activities is really, really important to us. So that'll be a big focus for the workshop part after the presentation. I think that's enough from me. I'm going to pass you on to Sam Rackham, who's going to start the presentation. Sam.
Thanks for that, Dave. As Pam said really earlier, this is all about weaving. There's lots of projects going on. What I want to discuss is how all of these projects kind of link together and weave that into a kind of cohesive identity for Swindon Town Centre. There's the Towns Fund's been a really particularly interesting piece of work that's allowed us to start to pull together that identity that Swindon is desperately searching for in many ways. We have it there. We've got an amazing heritage. We've got some brilliant cultural organisations, but this is really all about sending that message to the outside world that of what Swindon residents already know what's special about Swindon, but we need to make sure other people are aware of that too. So, why is that not working? So our town centre vision, there's some kind of key strands here that we want in terms of pulling together what is a successful town centre. There's multiple strands. It's not just about delivering projects. It's really important these projects deliver on some kind of key pillars. So the pillars that we've got are driving our economy. We want it to be high performing. We want to create spaces where people can work, people can enjoy living. We want it to be easy to get to. This isn't just about car ownership. It's about really easy access from public transport, cycle routes. Swindon's a really walkable town centre. This is all about how can we improve connectivity across the town centre so people understand that they can actually walk from the designer outlet through to the town centre, maybe up to Regent Circus. Really pull together all the dots. It's all about also being more than shopping. Swindon Town Centre has a really strong retail focus, but we know going forward, we need Swindon Town Centre to respond to people's needs in the digital age. So whether that's more experience, more leisure-led, more independent shops, is all of these things that we need to pull together. We also want to encourage more town centre living. There's been a lot of expansion at Swindon's edges, but also can we bring more people into the town centre who can use the amenities that can really help support, whether it's the small shops in the town centre, whether it's people working in the town centre. So it's a much more green, sustainable way of living where people can walk to work, walk to where their leisure activities are, walk to the swimming pool, etc. We also, fundamentally, it needs to be safe, clean and green, and it needs to be a place that people enjoy being. So Karen will talk about GWR Park, formerly known as Farringdon Park. There's some great green spaces, there's Queen's Park, there's Old Town Gardens. How can we encourage people to use those more? How can we make sure that Swindon feels like a safe place to be as well? And ultimately, Swindon's got an amazing heritage scene as well. It's got great local character and identity, and we really, Karen mentioned exploiting some of that and bringing that into the heart of our town centre plans. Sometimes that's been forgotten, but at its heart, Swindon is an amazing Victorian railway town, and we really want to make sure that becomes the real heart of Swindon's identity. And the other thing is, and this is very pertinent, is community leadership. David mentioned that this isn't just the council's town, this is everyone's town. This is about bringing together local community groups, voluntary sector, cultural organisations, heritage groups, bringing all of these people together to help shape the vision for Swindon Town Centre. So when David says we want to hear your views after this, we really do. We want you to help shape our vision. So a lot of these things fall into then a single master plan. So we have a delivery plan where we're focusing most of our projects around an area. We're calling it an arc of opportunity. This arc of opportunity is actually the area between the train station and the railway village. You can see, it's probably quite small on your screens really, but there's an image here that shows that area between the designer outlet, what we're calling the Kimmerfield site, where some of you will understand as Zurich, and the train station. And we think this is an area we can focus a kind of critical mass of activity, whether that be places where people work, live, but also focusing on our heritage and our culture as well, and our transport hubs. This image shows sort of where we want to focus some of the uses. So whether that be mixed use, making sure we're bringing all of those things together, so it's a more sustainable, resilient town centre. The issue is if you have an area that is just shops, as soon as those shops close, there's no footfall. So we want to make sure there's footfall from the very beginning of the day to into the evening. So by having housing, work, shops, leisure all together, you create a really safe, attractive, welcoming area. we've got the heritage area down here, we've got the green spaces, and we also want to encourage areas where independent shops can really thrive. This isn't about creating an identikit town centre. This is about creating spaces for groups to have a presence on the kind of high street, to have small startups opening up, to create spaces where local groups can have spaces where they're showing off the work that they do all on the high street. So this is a snapshot of our town centre projects. We've got the Health Hydro, we've got the new Bus Boulevard, there's the Institute of Technology coming forward in September. There's the new Zurich building on site at the moment, that's finishing in 2022. The work shed, Farringdon Road. I'm going to talk through all of these, don't worry, I'm not going over these at this speed. I will talk in more detail to these later. Feeding back to that arc of opportunity, those projects that I just showed you there, they're all, again, focused around this key area, focusing around our railway village, our heritage core, focusing it around our transport hubs. The railway station, you've got the new Bus Boulevard, where we've got a great public transport hub, cycle routes. So we need to make sure that the town centre is accessible for everyone, not just for people with cars. It needs to be walkable, it needs to be easy to get to, something that I mentioned earlier. So that's the reason the council is focusing a lot of its investment in this area. So if you wonder why is all this investment happening at Kimmerfields? Why is it all happening in the railway village? It's because we really want to send that message that things are changing. And one of the best ways to do that is to focus our investment in a core area. So first perceptions of Swindon can really change. So when people arrive by train and they get off and they walk into our railway village, they see a real core of activity and things that are happening and changing. So one of those key projects is Kimmerfields, I mentioned earlier. So this is our kind of big flagship regeneration scheme. For those of you that aren't familiar with the site, it's where the old Carfax Medical Centre was. So some of you might have parked there when you're walking into the town centre historically. So this is where we're focusing. There's the new Zurich flagship offices that's going up at the moment. There's other offices potentially coming forward. We want new residential, and it's also the home to our new cultural quarter as well, which I'll speak to in a moment. It's also adjacent to the Bus Boulevard. So we recently got £25 million of future high streets funding for that scheme. And that's a new public realm project. So it's not just about creating a new area for buses and coaches to come together. It's about creating a really attractive, welcoming first impression. And it's also an area where it feeds into the rest of the retail area and Kimmerfields. So it's all flat, it's very easy to get through. We won't have that awful underpass through to the town centre anymore. So it's making sure it's all at grade and it's really green, lots of trees. And it just becomes a really attractive place to enter the Swindon town centre. I mentioned Zurich's finishing in 2022, and we have outline consent for up to 450 homes. So this could become a really great place for people to come and live and work, and also visit some of our cultural infrastructure. So I'm the project manager on the Cultural Quarter project. You may have seen some of this in the press, you may have not, but to kind of summarise, this is about giving greater visibility to the great cultural organisations that we already have in Swindon. So we've got the likes of Create Studios, Artsite, Prime, Reach. All of these organisations deserve a greater visibility for what they do. They do some really brilliant work, not only with residents, but also reaching further out with professional organisations as well. So what we want is a new theatre. This is expanding the capacity of the Wyvern. We're doubling it to 1,200 seats, bringing it right into the centre of our town centre. It's a new media centre, so this will be digital production spaces, rehearsal studios, spaces for those existing Swindon organisations, spaces the likes of the voluntary sector can come in if you want to come in and do some shoots with the likes of Create or use some of your own spaces. This is a community space as much as a professional space as well. It's a new dance centre. So Swindon Dance are currently located in our town hall. It's bursting at the seams, to put it quite simply. They want to reach their full potential. So we're going to look at exploring a new dance centre for them as well, which will be over on Princes Street. So that will be allowing them to put on the full potential of full capacity. They're currently unable to reach there's a status that they need to reach, and in order to do that, they need new facilities that are fit for purpose, with rehearsal studios, performance spaces, etc. Also a new art pavilion as well. I don't know, some of you will be familiar that Swindon's got a really amazing 20th century art collection. We want to bring that bang into the centre of our town centre, put it near the theatre, near the media centre. So when people are coming out from Zurich, when they're coming from the train station into the town centre, it's the first thing they see. It's front and centre of all our plans. So it'd be a new art pavilion and a new museum as well to showcase our collection. Here's a nice visual of that kind of space in front of the theatre. So there'll be a new park at Kimmerfields as well. So really great open spaces for performance. And the art gallery is on the other side of that square as well, next to Zurich. So this is what I mean when I say mixed use. It's places where people are living, they're working, you can come down at lunch, go visit a new art exhibition. It's about creating that really resilient, interesting place to be. Heritage Action Zone, I'm going to let Karen speak to that later, so I won't go into too much detail there. But one of the key projects as part of a Heritage Action Zone is the Carriage Works. The Carriage Works forms a huge part. I don't know if you're familiar with London Road, so all the way where the Bristol Street Tunnel is, above that is the Carriage Works, and these were the old work sheds that Brunel used to create the trains for the GWR. So we're repurposing this into exciting new workspaces, higher education facilities. So one of the things, I mean, Joel used to work here, it's the work sheds. The work shed opened in 2018, and it's a workspace for entrepreneurs, startup businesses, local businesses that are looking to expand, but they're not quite sure whether they need a new premises. It's really taking on a new space that creates a space that large organizations it might not be suitable for, and putting that at the heart of our heritage quarter. So you can see here just an image that they've done a really beautiful conversion of the carriage workspace. And it's a great juxtaposition between old and new. And it's all about building on our commitment to find sustainable uses for our heritage sites. And Create Studios, who I mentioned earlier, will be looking to occupy one of the other units. We also have a new Cultural Heritage Institute, which opened, that's part of Royal Agricultural University, that opened September last year. They've started offering in workspaces as well. Unfortunately, they opened mid-pandemic, so they had to do a lot of their projects online, but now they're able to come into the Carriage Works and start offering in-person training. So that's a space that will be developing new heritage skills for that sector. And we also have the University of Bath opening a new innovation centre for applied sustainable technologies in the other units. So this is really all about bringing higher education to Swindon. It's about bringing a sustainable heritage-focused education to Swindon, which is what Swindon's all about. It's all had a really strong engineering history and a really strong heritage focus. We've got the likes of National Trust, Historic England Archive, all up the road. Steam Museum as well. I mentioned independent high streets. We're working with property owners in Fleet Street and Farringdon Road to help rejuvenate that area, encourage independent cafes, shops to open. There's Love Brownies opened recently. That's a really lovely cafe. Darkroom Espresso is a really brilliant cafe that opened not too long ago. So it's all about rejuvenating the heritage buildings along here. Farringdon House is where Love Brownies is at the moment. I mentioned the Institute of Technology as well. So that's a new £21 million project that's opening in September, and that's offering high quality employer-led technical education. So that's all based around STEM subjects, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And this is opening as part of the new College Swindon campus at North Star. So yeah, really exciting initiative to expand the higher education offering in Swindon. And we've recently electrified the railways as well. Towns Fund was mentioned. There's 5 key projects here that are funded through the Towns Fund, for those of you that aren't familiar. It's the Health Hydro. I'll let Karen speak a bit more about the Health Hydro, but a really brilliant leisure facility. And we were lucky enough to secure £5 million from the Towns Fund to help rejuvenate that and turn it into a new leisure destination. And also there's been council commitment as well to take that up to £6.5 million. There's has streets and spaces. That's improving the underpasses and the streets in and around the Heritage Action Zone. There's the Carriage Works Phase 3, converting the listed buildings. That's expanding on the commitment that's already been made with the workshed. And there's also Kimmerfields Phase 2. So this is improving the infrastructure that sits around Kimmerfields to make sure that those buildings that I mentioned earlier can come forward. So again, this Towns Fund projects map shows how each of these projects fit around this arc of opportunity that we mentioned earlier, all based around our heritage, our culture, and our transport assets. And in terms of immediate interventions as well, there's something called the Welcome Back Fund. There's been the Returning to High Street Safely Fund. All of these projects, we're looking at improving lighting in this town centre, bringing pop-up parks. You might have seen murals going up around the town centre. We really want to bring not only these long-term projects, these really large infrastructure projects in, but we also want to do work on the ground today. So we're looking at improving lighting in the town centre, making it more green. We're bringing new planters into the town centre, putting up those murals. So this is somewhere where the voluntary sector could possibly engage. So if there's any ideas you have, please come forward and we'll discuss that in a bit more detail shortly. These projects, though, are forthcoming over the next 5 years to 10 years. So some of these projects are happening as we speak. In the Institute of Technology opening this year, Carriage Works ICAST opening very soon. Cultural Institute opened last year, Zurich 2222. So this is a rolling programme of works that you're going to see that slow change happening over the next 5 years and beyond. So this isn't just us talking about projects that aren't happening. It's really important that you see that change is happening in Swindon and that we're committed to that kind of critical mass coming forward. And yeah, that's my bit, and I'm just going to pass over to Karen now. But if there's anything you really reflected on there, bring those into that conversation in a moment, and we'll discuss. And any questions you have, please put them to us. And yeah, thank you. And Karen, would you be ready to go?
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen.
Right, thank you.
Oops. Okay, can you see that now? Am I on board?
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay. So I'm here to talk about the Heritage Action Zone, which is an initiative from Historic England, and it's all about delivering a sort of concentrated programme of activity focused on a particular historic area, and with the idea of using heritage as a catalyst for social and economic growth in the wider area. And there are 20 Heritage Action Zones originally, and we were just the second in the southwest, so we were really thrilled to be awarded this. And we're 2 years into what is basically a 5-year partnership with Historic England, and they are bringing £1.6 million of funding, but just as important actually is access to all their sort of corporate resources in heritage regeneration and research and things like that. So this is a map of the Heritage Action Zone. Just to focus it, so to clarify, so we've got the railway works area north of the line, and then the railway village area and south of the rail track, but the sort of areas expanded to include the pattern store and the turntable there, the health hydro and the shops along Farringdon Road, and then the listed buildings at the station as well. So it's sort of bigger than the original, what were these green boundaries were the conservation areas. And what our aim for the Heritage Action Zone is to exploit the central location of it and its historic atmosphere and buildings in order to create a distinctive mixed-use, pedestrian-friendly neighbourhood within the town centre. It has some unique historical and cultural assets in it, and with enhancement we think that they can complement and broaden the retail offer that's currently in the town centre, and Sam was talking about that as well. You can't town centres can't depend on retail. They need other things to keep people in them. And through all this activity, we would just basically want to shape a more positive and distinct identity for Swindon. And this is about increasing local pride for local people, but also encouraging private investment, and particularly to bring forward some of the stalled development sites that we have in the town centre, which can provide housing, which will then bring new residents into the town centre and support the assets. I'm planning officer originally, and so I've got a wonderful big master plan that full of loads of different types of projects, but basically you can divide them into 3 different types. So the first type is about refurbishing the key buildings and spaces, and I'll sort of go round these in turn. So that the Cricketers Pub in Emlyn Square, I'm working with the Mechanics Institution Trust at the moment to refurbish this building. We're looking at a planning application depending on new uses, which will probably be residential on the top floors and community uses on the ground floor. The Health Hydro, with money from the council and from the town fund, we've got a budget of 6.5 million, and that should deliver a really comprehensive refurbishment of this wonderful building to create a major leisure asset in a unique cultural historic building to draw people into the town centre. We've got the shop frontages along Farringdon Road. There's a project to try and improve or encourage more heritage appropriate shop frontages. The GWR Park on Farringdon Road, the House has funded conservation management plan. There's lots of research has been done, and we've had a first consultation which yielded over 400 responses, which is absolutely fantastic. And that was trying to find out what people value about the park. The consultants are currently drafting the plan, and then there will be a second consultation about their vision for the park. The Mechanics Institution is the prize really of the whole of the 5 years activities. So this is the priority project for Historic England. It's on their at-risk register, and the Heritage Action Zone has enabled us to pull together the Mechanics Institution Trust with the Council and Historic England and other organisations such as the Theatres Trust to try and find a way forward and a new use for this building. At the moment, it's lots of preparatory work is being done. We've had a hazardous material survey and a viability appraisal has been done, but it's a slow process, but we're working towards how we can find a new operator to manage the build and to operate it in the future. And finally, the carriage works, which Sam has talked about, just to say that we've received lots of money already. Some councils invested in this. The LEP is investing 4 million. The Towns Fund is investing another 5.5 million. But the Heritage Action Zone is paying for the frontage to be redecorated and reglazed. At the moment, there's a sort of it's either boarded up because they've been vandalised, or they're opaque glass windows all along that street frontage along London Street. But in the next year to 18 months, those should be opened up and redecorated, and with the idea of opening the building back up into the street and encourage more sort of permeability between the street and the building. A big part of the Heritage Action Zone, more than nearly a half of the budget, in fact, is about connecting the town centre up, with the aim of encouraging more people to walk and cycle across the town between the railway village and through to other parts. I've got a whole list of projects. This is divided up into 10 little sub-projects. So at the moment, our urban design team have been preparing a master plan for the area with a palette of materials that are heritage appropriate for any projects delivered in the railway village. We've just started a project looking at the traffic arrangements around the railway village and trying to work out how we can reduce the amount of buses that go around Emlyn Square, which is sort of damaging the mechanics and sort of might deter people from wanting to walk around the area. Through the town fund, we have received money's worth 3 million, and so that's enabling us to deliver improvements to Station Road from the station right down to the Bristol Street Tunnel, but also through the 2 tunnels. That's the Bristol Street Tunnel and the Shepherd Street Underpass. So I'm busy working on preparing those projects. If I go back one, so hopefully this is a map of the railway village, and when we were looking at what the main issues that deter people walking across the area, we identified 4 key routes. So the first one is from the designer outlet and across the railway works and through the tunnel into the railway village. Station Road, which I've just talked about, from the town centre through Fleet Street and Bridge Street, and then the Health Hydro, another project we're just starting to pull together some concept designs, is about how can we reconnect the Health Hydro to the railway village and encourage people to cross over. It's 5 lanes, I think, at Farringdon Road at the moment, but we're trying to find a more efficient, more pedestrian-friendly way of doing that. And these are the projects I'm working on at the moment. And then the final sort of strand of projects is all about promotion and raising awareness. So what we've got at the moment are, we've got Hemingway Design are leading on our branding project, and we've had lots of support from local stakeholders feeding into this. And there will be some Vox Pop events and workshops coming up in the next 6 weeks, we hope. Education, I'm working with a Heritage and Schools officer from Historic England, and we're preparing a teacher training day in October. I'm hoping to run a workshop as soon as restrictions lift sufficiently to train sufficient tour guides so that we can offer a programme throughout the year to take people around the railway village and the railway works, and just share the history with anybody. So it would be on a regular basis so that you could turn up, say, every Friday, and then you'd get a tour. And I'm also working with National Citizenship Service programs. This is about engaging with young people in the summer and getting them involved in some of the projects in the railway village. And then finally, perhaps just to finish on Heritage Open Days, we're really hoping to have an amazing offer this September, concentrated on the weekend of the 11th and 12th. This is about getting people into our historic buildings free of charge. In the railway village, we've got the carriage works will be open, the Health Hydro, the community centre, St Mark's Church, the Patton Church. I'm trying to think what else. Possibly even the cricketers, if we can make it safe enough to enable people to go in it. And then there will be lectures and events and things like that as well, all at the same time. So look out for more publicity about that going forward. We've talked a little bit about the town fund. So because of the Heritage Action Zone, we were able to sort of put forward the argument that we are keen to really make the most of our heritage, and so we were successful. Out of the 19 million we were awarded from the town fund, 13.5 million is helping towards HAS projects. So that's the carriage works, the Health Hydro, and the enhancement of Station Road and the tunnels. And then I think we were talking asked to think about volunteering opportunities. So I have some very specific asks. If there are anybody out there who would like to help out, we're looking for individuals who can help with the DWR park consultation. I want to have a couple of afternoons in the park when we can speak to people and face to face and ask them questions. Heritage Open Days, we're going to need a host of people to direct people around the area, help with setting up, serving cream teas, things like that. And then more longer term, the Trust is looking for people to help with the Railway Village Museum and to do things like gardening or to be on the board. If you'd like to be a tour guide, again, please let me know. And then we have some brick planters in the Railway Village that I'm hoping to get planted up in the next month, and they will need maintenance. So those are some very sort of specific asks if you have any interest in helping out. I think that's pretty much it from me. So I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Karen. Where am I? Thank you very much, Karen. Just thought the point Pam made at the start and Sam made around the importance of being joined up. Just a specific example on that. Health Hydro, we're investing 6.5 million in the building itself to secure its sustainable future. So 6.5 million invested in the building itself, with the intention that it once again becomes a centre of health and well-being for the town. But it's not good enough just investing in building. We need to invest in the wider area around the building. We need to drive more footfall to that area, because at the minute Health Hydro has become disconnected from the wider town centre. The pedestrian links, for example, are not good enough. There's not enough activity around Evelyn Square, so carriage works and cricketers and other key schemes like that are really important to drive footfall into the area. So that's what we mean by being joined up. The projects that we're bringing forward are talking to each other and mutually supporting each other. Okay, right. We've said our bit and we've talked longer than we said we'd talk. So we're going to stop talking now. We're going to go around the room. I think we're going to go around the room twice. If I'm sure we've got the time to do that. The first time we go around the room, we just want to hear your reaction to our regeneration plans. Is there any gaps or is there any elements you particularly like? So we start with that, and then the second time we go around the room, we want to talk about how we as council officers can better support grassroots activities in the town centre in general terms, but also maybe activities that your organisation in particular wants to push on with. So two going around the room workshop-y sessions. But if we go around the room first on the issue of your reaction to the presentations, the regeneration plans, is there any gaps or any elements you particularly like? And if we can, well, as we go around the room, can you say who you are and the organisation you're representing as well, if that's okay? Right. If I'm assuming we all want to say a few words, so I'm not going to ask you to put your hands up. I'm going to go around everyone, if that's okay. How do we do this? Right. I've got a list on my right hand side. It doesn't look to be alphabetical. The first person on my list is two people, Andrew and Dan from Gateway Furniture. So Andrew and Dan, say who you are, what your organisation does, and your reaction to the plans.
Yeah, so Andrew Williams, I'm the project manager for Gateway Furniture. Dan's the operations manager. We help people in need with furniture in Swindon. We recycle furniture back out. People donate items to us and we recycle it back out to people in need. We also have a town centre shop in Havelock Square at the moment. We've been in there for 6 or 7 years, which we've tried to over time develop into more of a community space, a cafe area, and so on. Really excited about the ideas. I've lived in Swindon most of my life, and I really like some of the heritage stuff and how that links in. There are a few areas where I feel gaps, like from our own personal perspective of what we deal with. So I don't know if you want me to share that now or on the second time round. But I generally really excited, and I can't wait to see some of this stuff happen.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Oh, sorry, were you Andrew or Dan? Sorry.
I'm Andrew.
Sorry. Right, Andrew. Yeah, if you keep your powder dry for the second time round for your own particular issues, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I was jumping around. I've got next on my list is Jax Hill-Wilson.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'm representing Big Breakfast Plus. We provide breakfast to the homeless. Haven't been operating for the last 13 months, obviously, actually 15 months now. I've recently taken over as general manager there, just so that everyone knows. I think the projects look very exciting, but I wonder my question, I suppose, is what does it do to think activities that are already happening in those areas, and how does it, that's maybe a second question, but where does it push those people who are perhaps sleeping rough and are in the homeless sector? Where does it push them to if this is coming in and taking over? A bright shiny new future might not want to include some of those people, and that would be something I'd be concerned about.
That's a very good point. This is quite humbling, actually, all these really worthy initiatives and council officers. Oh, that's really okay. That's really nice to hear from you, Jax. But a really good point. It's a more wider point around how do we ensure that we're not gentrifying the town for regeneration. It's a town centre for everyone, and continues to be a town centre for everyone. And yeah, that's close to our thoughts as well, close to our minds, and that's why we're very keen on the bottom up or grassroots approach. So it's not just top down shiny new developments being foisted upon the town. It's the bottom up as well. But it's on our radar. We don't want to gentrify the town. We want it to be a town for everyone. Absolutely agreed.
Okay. Thank you.
Next on my list is Joe Baxall. Hi, Joe. Hi. Joe Baxall.
It's nice to see some faces of the past. Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
Hello, Joe. We can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's nice to hear faces, see faces. Yes. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
I can hear you, Joe.
Two points really. One is I'm very interested in fairy stories, and I've heard one story like this many years ago, but I do think that progress is being made, and we've been involved from the Swindon Equality and Access Group with the Boulevard project and talking to the planners for that area. Can I just make a suggestion that in the new town centre, could there be some relationship between the National Health Service and the planners to put in some accommodation or office or space in which the National Health Service can have an office so that people could drop in and get their advice or help where they need it, when they need it. So that was my only suggestion, really. A space for the National Health Service, a key space within the new plans of the town centre.
Yeah, fabulous. Thanks, Joe. And
I've finished.
We really appreciate the work the Equalities Action Group has been doing on the Boulevard. We actually radically changed the scheme in response to your advice. So we appreciate that. Your point around you've heard fairy tales before. There is a lot of cynicism out there around town centre regeneration because people have been talking about it for donkey's years and it hasn't happened. But we've deliberately focused on the schemes and projects that we've got funding for. We are delivering. We actually are delivering on the ground. So these projects are certainly not fairy tales, but it's a point well made that there is a lot of cynicism around town centre regeneration because of what has not happened in the past. But things are changing. We promise you that. Your point around NHS, yeah, we want the NHS. We actually want a number of public sector bodies, other public sector bodies, to have a more proactive role in the town centre going forward, and we will be engaging them on that. We want there's lots of things here. So town centre living, we need the infrastructure to support town centre living, and that infrastructure includes GP surgeries and all the other infrastructure. So this is a really important point, and we are engaging the health sector and other public sector bodies in ensuring that they provide the necessary infrastructure to support the town centre regeneration. So it's a good point, and it's something that we are addressing. So thank you, Joe. Next on my list is Sally Cole.
Hello there, Sally Cole. I'm actually a member of the Mechanics Institute Trust, so we've had quite a lot of involvement with a lot of the plans going forward. Obviously, we're very excited and very happy that at last this underrated part of town is perhaps seeing the spotlight. I guess our main problem is that as more and more of these projects come into place, it's having the bodies available to make the most of what's happening there. We're stretched at the moment. We'd just love more volunteers and more trustee board members to come along out of the blue somewhere. But you know, we're quite happy. I think from the residents of the railway village, they would really love to see things happening with the pavement and the signage and just things that they can touch and feel at the moment, because it is a bit up in the clouds. So, you know, it's just making things happen on the ground, I think, is what we're all waiting for. And of course, the mechanics itself, to get that brought back into somebody's possession so we can start using that in an effective manner as well.
Thank you, Sally. So you're on the lookout for more volunteers, more.
Oh, definitely. We're stretched to the limit at the moment. I mean, we've got people doing volunteering for 30+ hours a week, trying to do things.
Okay, right. Point. Yeah, we'll see how we can support you in attracting more volunteers. But I think Karen's already helping on that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But and your point around the focus on the railway village, and it hasn't always, we haven't always focused on the railway village. We've almost turned our back on the railway village in years gone by, and that's a crying shame, because it's absolute gem at the heart of Swindon. So past strategies, approaches that ignored the railway village were fundamentally flawed, and we are very much focused on the railway village, in particular in the Evelyn Square area. But thank you, Sally. Next person on my list is Bob Barrett.
Hello there, I'm Chair of Trustees of the Voluntary Acts in Swindon, and Pam Webb is our CEO in the bottom screen there. We run Voluntary Acts in Swindon. We also manage Sanford House and all the different charities that sit there, and also we look after shop mobility. I'm Swindon born and bred, and I'm very, very proud of our heritage. I live in the David Murray John Terrace, so I can keep my eye on what's going on out the window in my binoculars. So, and Kimmerfields is going quite well. So I'm really proud to be a Swindonian. I just think that we're now starting on the path to get us back where we should be.
That's great, Bob. Yeah, the civic pride thing. A lot of Swindonians talk down their town, and it frustrates me. We need to big up Swindon. It's got so much going for it. We need to talk up the town, and I'm really pleased you say that. Oh, thanks, Bob.
Pleasure.
Who else is mine? Carol Willis. Carol.
Hi, sorry, I'm Carol Willis. I'm from Voluntary Action in Swindon as well. I'm the funding and governance advisor. So I advise small organisations on governance and funding. I'm a Swindonian as well, and have gone in and out of favour with Swindon, to be honest. I've gone through all the developments from the 70s, which it was really a place to go, and now I tend to go outside of Swindon, I'm ashamed to say, to spend my money. So this sounds really exciting, and hopefully we can take it forward. It'd be really great to see Swindon's art collection on display. I have actually seen some of it because I worked in the college where it was housed at one point. So yeah, it's a crying shame that it's been kept private all this time. One thing that concerns me is I don't live far from the town centre, and you're talking about 450 homes. There's also Farnsbury Street that's being turned into mainly flats. There's nowhere to park at all, and all the parking is then pushed into the residential bits of around Swindon. I mean, I drive once a week probably, but as soon as I move my car, I can't park again. So I think putting more and more flats and that in the town centre pushes the parking problem further and further out.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Carl. I was hoping no one would raise the issue of parking. It's quite emotive. But essentially, the town centre is the most sustainable part of Swindon. You could build lots of houses on the Greenfield site on the edge of town, and they'll they're almost forced to have 2 cars and drive everywhere. People living in the outskirts, whereas people living in centre of Swindon, many people choose not to own a car in the centre of Swindon. So there's lots of households in the centre by their own choice. They don't own a car because they can use the public transport infrastructure. So not all of those 450 homes in Kimberfields, for example, will generate additional car movements. We could talk about though. But take your point, and there is a wider issue around parking permits and whatnot. I don't want to get into that today.
No, I appreciate that. I just think it's something that you need to be aware of and take into consideration. And I know we should all be encouraged to, and I do walk all the time, and I get the train mainly out of when I go out of Swindon, but it's still a point. I mean, where I live, people park on the verges all the time. The grass is ruined and everything is deteriorating. So it just causes knock-on issues if it's not considered.
Sorry, just to jump in there as well, just to let you know, we've got highways consultants looking at that, and we've got an access strategy. So we've already actually, although it's got outline permission for 450 homes, we're actually looking at more like 250.
Right. Okay.
So to address some of those concerns.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for people not driving. But reality is that people are lazy and they do.
And I think that's the point. The point is that when we do our kind of assessments, there will be a very realistic allocation of just how much car use there is likely to be from the development, so that we are considering that and ensuring that it doesn't affect the wider network. So whether that might be using the kind of some of the underused multi-storey car parks. So it might be giving permits for those kind of spaces. So there are other options that don't involve using existing resident parking as well. So yeah, just basically let you know, although whilst we develop the schemes, that will be at the heart of what we're doing as well, is considering what additional movements are created and how we're compensating for that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm more positive for the development.
Oh no, I know you are. I'm just letting you know that it is being considered.
All right. Thanks.
That's a very good point, Sam. I was being flippant, but it's part and parcel of delivering regeneration schemes. Is we need to consider the highway impacts, the parking impacts. So yeah, it is considered, but as a core principle, town centre living is much more sustainable than a development on the edge of town. But thank you, Carl. Next on my list is Dick Millard.
That's me. Hi.
Hi.
I relate to the town centre in lots of ways because I live in Swindon. You know, like we all relate in so many ways. I guess I'm here mostly because of my interest in cycling. I help run the Swindon Cycle campaign, and there's lots to like in what you've presented this morning. One of the things I want to encourage everybody to work towards is having a kind of joined up, legible set of routes that cyclists can use. And it's sometimes a bit difficult to do that if the development happens, you know, a little bit over here, a little bit over there, and then you have to think about joining them up and so on. But legible network for cyclists, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dick. And I'm aware that you do feed into a number of the big schemes coming forward in the town, so we really appreciate that. Yeah, and the town centre itself hasn't always been a cycling. It hasn't.
Can be a bit of a nightmare. Yes.
Yeah, no. We live in one side of Swindon. My son goes to college on the other side of Swindon, and you should be able to cycle. You should be able to cycle to North Star, but you can't because it's absolutely right. Yeah. Point taken. Yeah, no, really we do knit together the cycle routes and enhance cycling through and around the town centre. Point taken. We don't make enough of that. I've got Elizabeth Postgate.
Hi, yes, I am here. My camera's decided to stop working. Oh, you've frozen on me. Can everyone hear?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So yeah, I had a couple of things. So I really liked, I think Sam said at the beginning, the idea of having stuff open at different times, because I always remember walking into the town centre once at 5 o'clock and it was absolutely dead. And it just seemed to me that, you know, we, in this day and age, we ought to be able to have something more of a kind of European feel in a town centre where you could go at any particular time of the day and there'd be something going on. So I really like that idea. Oh, sorry, I haven't told you who I am, have I? So I'm Elizabeth Postgate. I run In a Flame, which is a charity working with young people 16 to 25-year-olds. So we run confidence and employability courses for young people. A couple of other things. So I wanted to raise parking as well, but on a slightly different angle. So rather than parking of residents and the effect that would have, but the idea of, I mean, this scheme obviously needs to be sustainable for the long term. And if people can't get into the town centre, then they won't come. So at the moment, I think it's probably busiest on a Sunday when the parking's free. So it really does, you know, it's wonderful restoring all the buildings and having those uses for them. But what I can see happening is that working and then each individual just being individual building being kind of isolated, and then things will just go downhill again. To get that connectivity and to get things kind of breathing in the long term, you've got to think about how people are, and I know you are thinking about how people are going to get there, but it's got to work, and it's got to be worth people's effort to get there once they are there. So that balance has got to be right, and it's a tricky one, I understand. Then the other thing was, can we please have some space in the work sheds, please? It just looks absolutely fantastic, that development, and it'd be wonderful if you know, organisations like ours would be able to be in there, and I don't know what the plans are for who's going to be in them.
Okay, just on that second point, or that last point, if you so we'll take this offline, Elizabeth, and we'll see how on yeah, we'll see what we can do for you. Yeah, that's fine. On the other, you made a number of point. Gosh. Yeah, your point around the town centre needs to have something to offer so that people will be willing to drive or get the bus in and whatnot. That's really important. We're at the minute we're competing with Greenbridge retail parks and of this world where there's free parking, etc. Swindon needs to have a experiential offer that will make it a destination of choice for Swindon residents, that they're willing to make the effort to drive, hopefully bus it in, but potentially drive in and pay for the parking, etc. But you're absolutely right. It needs to have that critical mass of offer and activities that people would want to spend half a day or even the whole day in the town centre as a leisure activity. But point taken. So thank you, Elizabeth. And if we can maybe get maybe share details after this meeting, and we'll talk about the carriage works and.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. I can put my email in the chat actually.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Please do.
I don't mind who takes it.
Okay, next person on my list is Father Toby Bootle. Is that Toby?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm the parish priest for parish of Swindon Newtown, which serves all of the Church of England parish, serving all of the town centre of Swindon. Two of our buildings are within the areas you mentioned. One is St Mark's, which is an integral part of the railway village, and is architecturally significant. It was designed by Sir Gilbert Scott, and very much involved in the HAZ work, the wonderful work that Karen is doing, and really pleased to be involved with that. The other, we've got a small chapel in the town centre, St Aldhelms, less architecturally significant, 1960s building, but where the Swindon Food Collective operate from. We've got a bookshop there too, and so we're very much looking at the future of that site, whether we might redevelop that, how that can serve the needs of the town centre. Just to say thank you so much for presenting that. Really, really interesting. Very much like all of the emphasis on livability, on walkability, on beauty. I think there are lots of quite small changes to the street scene that could have such massive impact actually on how the town centre looks and feels. I arrived in post just at the start of the first lockdown, and so I've very much experienced as a non-Swindonian moving here that lack of civic pride, that feeling of being very apologetic for Swindon, and coming from outside. It'd be wonderful to see some of that broken down and people seeing how wonderful a lot of the local area is. So thank you so much.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. I'm obviously not from Swindon. I think it's a fantastic town. So much going for it. I don't think Swindonians realise what they got. We should be singing from the hilltops about some of that, what Swindon's got going for it. Anyway, thank you. Right, who we got next? Gemma from Dash.
Hi, I'm Gemma. I'm from Dash. We are an organisation, a small charity. We work with adults with autism, so we give them advice, signposting, and we have some small social groups. Again, I think the presentation was great. The town centre is really sorry looking, and you go in there now. And I think before lockdown, when I last walked through just one part of the town centre, I counted 12 empty shops. So I'm sure that's gone up a lot since the last time I walked through the town centre. And I moved here when I was in secondary school. Again, my parents moved here because it was a town where there was lots going on, and there was lots of work, and it has changed a lot over that time. So I think anything that makes the town centre look better and more inviting and more things for kind of everybody to do is a great idea. One of the things I did think of when it was being mentioned about volunteers to kind of maintain flower boxes and things like that is, a way of kind of getting more people to do that, maybe for the borough to pay for maybe one or two organisations, some of the charities, to have maybe one paid member of staff that works a few hours a week, that run sessions that are maintaining those areas, where people who have additional needs or have less access to the community could have an opportunity to do some kind of work experience, or just something that gets them out of the house, that's in kind of a friendly, supportive way with people who have knowledge of working with similar people with their needs. That might be a way of kind of bringing those people into the community and into that new development.
Yeah, I think there's something in that, Gemma. Again, could I take your email as well? And
yeah, I'll pop it in the chat as well.
Explore that. I need the right people in the room, street smart colleagues on that, but I think there's something in that. Just to your point around number of shops, the vacancy levels going up. It's interesting. What's happening is in a number of streets, Havelock Street, Commercial Road, Farringdon Road, streets like that, there's actually the occupancy levels are really, really strong. It's just on the main drag, so Regent Street.
Yeah, that's the main bit.
So it's part of a wider shift. The big box national chains are struggling, but you're seeing more and more independents or niche retailers taking over, but they obviously want small outlets. So you're seeing parts of the town centre doing really well and parts not doing so well, and it's part of the transition of the town centre to this new experiential shopping and leisure role. But but
I think you said like niche shops is you know, I think that is a good idea, and you know, you get kind of niche shops that sell lots of things for small businesses, which again helps people in Swindon. So I think, you know, those things are what works.
Okay, well, team, drop me your email and I'll take that away.
Yeah, no worries.
So, sorry, David, to jump in just one sec. You said to keep my powder dry, but would you mind if I just mention, because I think some of what I wanted to say links into a couple of the comments that have just been made. Could I do that just really quickly? So, as I say, as Gateway Furniture, we serve the whole of Swindon and surrounding areas with recycling furniture out to people in need. But we also do have a town centre shop in Havelock Square. And just to agree with what Gemma said, clearly there are huge areas of the town centre that are empty in terms of retail properties at the moment. And I should say some of those have been large retailers, you know, the vast majority. But I also want to link into what Jack said earlier about with the Breakfast Club and helping those in need in the town, because our experience of running a shop in the town centre for, say, the last 6 years is there is a big community of people that do live in the town centre already, in addition to additional houses that may be built, and there is a sense of community around those people and a sense of poverty. There is quite a lot of poverty around some of those areas as well, and we tend to engage a lot with those individuals through our town centre shop, and this is where we've tried to develop things like town centre a cafe, community cafe and things like that to engage with people. And I would hate for, well, a couple of things. Firstly, we've tried to expand, we've tried to get additional property in the town centre, because we feel in our heart it's really key for us to try and engage more widely with people who have poverty issues and sense of loneliness, connecting and those sorts of things. But to actually try and get into some of these larger empty properties that you see just essentially becoming quite derelict is near on impossible, if I'm being honest. And it almost seems like a lot of them are privately owned. You can't even find out the people that own them a lot of the time, because it's these big sort of investment corporations. They just let them go derelict. And if there's anything you can help to plug into some of those, that would be really helpful for us to engage in some conversations, because we would love to develop something more centrally in the town about community and many other things. And I'm sure many people on these calls would be in similar positions to that, and I think it's also then about the shiny new and not forgetting that there is poverty, there is need already in the town centre, and that should also form part of that vision moving forward. So I just wanted to say that, because I know a lot of people are covering those sorts of things.
That's really helpful, Andrew. I think, okay, you're absolutely right. There's a number of long-time vacant properties in the town centre, and in some cases it's absent landlord situation where you get the feeling that they don't even care about it. But we and through in Swindon, the bid company for the town centre, we've been attempting to and successfully engaging in a number of the absent landlords, particularly around the Farringdon Road area, Fleet Street area. So if anyone on this call is looking for premises in the town centre, let me know, and we can see what we can do for you. So through in Swindon, we've got almost like a matchmaking service where we can be the middleman between the landlord and yourselves, and trying to find a suitable premises for you. So so basically, if you're looking for premises in the town centre, let me know and we'll see what we can do for you.
Thank you for that, David, and I'll be in touch. But the only thing I would say as well is just that in the longer term vision is that you can get spaces, but you've literally got no security. So you can go in and you can invest, and you can try and make it look really nice, and try and get your message out in terms of trying to improve the town centre and connecting people. But you'll be on a 2-week notice to be out of the property, if they can then hire it out to somebody who's going to pay a lot of money. And I just think that it's just in the vision moving forward, it's just worth thinking about community space isn't necessarily just about sort of specialist shops, and I think it's also worth thinking about what a community space or community really means in the town centre, and I really feel that should form part of something that you're thinking about as the wider development of the town. It's about the community that exists around that town centre as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's feedback we also receive from the arts sector. We've got we're renting accommodation in Theatre Square area. They need that long-term sustainability. That look, that's something we need to take away. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's a really strong point, and I couldn't agree more that we need to make sure that people aren't displaced by these plans, and that we build in a long-term space for our communities, our Indigenous communities, that we really want to make sure they continue to do the great work they're already doing. So yeah, really strong point, and we'll see how we can kind of engage with that point going forward. We are trying to create spaces. We've talked in Swindon a lot about creating spaces. There's a new community hub opening up on Canal Street. There's also one opening up in the old subway building for the arts sector. So we are trying to create those spaces. But again, if any ideas coming forward, come to us. But I think it's something we'll try build into our plans as well, Andrew. So thank you for that.
That's good. It's a really good point. Good practical point. You're absolutely right. It's all meanwhile uses. So Norma, you got your hand up. Do you want to come in on this?
Nice to see you again after all these years.
You too, Norma.
I'm Chair of Swindon Seniors Forum, which we are a voice for Swindon senior citizens. And it's still all the talk with the older people about the bus station. It's unsafe, it's dirty, it's rats everywhere. When are you going to start that project? So, because it's the gateway into Swindon and it needs to look nice coming up Manchester Road, and all that area needs to be done now.
Yeah, you please don't, Norma. It's actually started. We went out to tender for the contractor to deliver the Bus Boulevard scheme, which will replace the old bus station. So that project's been started. You'll see the bulldozers and whatnot in the ground in the coming months. But that project's already started. The current bus station will be there for another couple of years though, because it needs to stay in situ while we build the Bus Boulevard. But the work has started. Pam.
Thank you. It's kind of connected, but kind of connected to the last four conversations, especially about the empty shop fronts. I'm just thinking, well, one of the reasons we wanted to do this today is because I've become more aware of a lot of these projects through working on the Towns Fund stuff. But I just think if you're out there in the big wide world of Swindon, this is all quite a big secret. I mean, it's obviously you live and breathe it. I mean, it'd be interesting to do a poll vote on how many people that have joined this call sort of knew about all these projects. They may have heard of one, but not the other. And I just wonder where you've got something like Debenhams, which looks really sad now when people sort of come through the underpass and that's sort of what was a vibrant sort of part of Swindon. In the short term, could you not utilise some of the shop fronts to put some of these images up, you know, to say what's happening, to sort of try and raise people's pride and can see, although it looks a bit sad at the moment, that all this is actually going to happen? Because you've got some really good images on those slides. It wouldn't take a lot to sort of, you know, cover the front of Debenhams to tell the story or something.
Yeah. Absolutely right, Pam. We need to get much better at presenting the work that we, not just the council, but the town is doing to regenerate Swindon. We need to get much better at that. We're dealing with this internally. Sam, do you want to come in on this?
Yeah, I was going to say that it is something that we've recognised, and hence why we're trying to do far more of these kind of outreach, raising awareness of what we're doing, but also we're trying to make sure that those images go up on any new hoardings. We've talked to our comms team about this. The point you make is a really important one, because we're looking at actual empty shop fronts in Swindon that we can start to put up those images and start to raise awareness of the plans. So that what you've mentioned is something where is right at the top of our priority list at the moment in terms of spreading the message, raising awareness of what we're doing. Because you're right, it would be interesting to ask everyone, were people aware of this? I'm a Swindon resident. I was born and raised in Swindon, so I'm aware of. Because I live and breathe it, it feels like it's out in the Swindon advert quite a lot. But at the same time, like you said, I'm looking for it. Whereas some people, you might be missing it. Are there places that you think we could be raising awareness more? Are there places that you're looking to and you're not seeing it? So if there's any suggestions there, let us know. But empty shop fronts is a big one, Pam, and we're looking at that.
Okay, thank you. And it goes back to this point around civic pride. It's how we foster civic pride, and it's getting the message out that the town centre is regenerating, and it's on the way up. That's a good point. The next person on my list is Hannah.
Excuse me, but I've got to go in a minute. But could I just make 2 comments? One is, have you ever thought of hiring a bus to go around the rural areas of the borough and other towns with the photographs, with all the pictures, etc.? Because the dead in the town centre, it's dead. There's nobody. Well, there is. Forgive me, but it's the rural areas, it's the urban areas that need to know what's going on in the town centre. Put a bus together, exhibition that travels around. I'm in.
Okay, I'll just do. So
I've got to go.
Thanks,
okay, good to see you again, Joe. But point taken, we need lots of creative ways and different channels to get the message out around the town centre is on the up again. It's starting to regenerate. Lots of channels, and we're actually doing a piece of work internally with our comms team on this. So watch this space for that. But thank you, Joe. We need to get more creative and proactive in how we market, present what the work Swindon's doing to its town centre.
I also think it raises an important point, how Swindon Town Centre is for the borough. It's not just for people that live and work in the town centre. It's about encouraging people that live.
That's right.
East Swindon, if you live in Rawton.
That's right.
Yeah. So I totally accept that point, and that's why we're trying to create that kind of quite a diverse offer for people. But yeah, accept your point about trying to get that message out to those rural areas.
Okay. Next to my list is Hannah Litherland.
Hi, David. Hi. I just posted in the chat, so I had to go, but I will go now. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. It's really interesting. I've been trying to find out a little bit more about the Townsend and stuff for a while. I'm the local officer for the National Lottery Community Fund, so we're obviously quite a large funder across the UK, but I'm the local officer for Swindon and Wiltshire, so I was just really interested to hear more, work out how it kind of fits in with what else is going on, and there's a lot to digest there really. But the things I thought were really great is kind of like the green, like the green spaces and the heritage part of it. I think we can all relate to kind of lockdown and the fact that we all value that, being able to not only get together but also just have space to be able to go. I think that's become really important. What I put in the chat quickly, I was trying to articulate really quickly in the chat, but I think Andrew from Gateway kind of articulated it really well. It's just that my thoughts around like not leaving people behind who already live in the area. I think it's really important to focus on the future, but it's also just as key to just focus on what people already think, what are the strengths about. And we've spoken about civic pride, but I think that could kind of be drawn out even more. And obviously everybody here has got amazing projects that they're already really connected to their community. So I think it is just using groups who are already on this call and doing kind of more of this stuff, which would be really helpful. I'd put again, like I'm happy to help where we can around funding that we're already distributing to projects where we think could link up potentially. It's even that step further around if we're going to kind of do like green spaces and things like that. Like there's already quite a lot of research around what green spaces that already exist and parks, and there's communities that don't use those spaces. And I think it's about kind of even trying to create spaces where there's, where we already know where communities don't feel welcome in that sort of space and why, and working with voluntary organisations to kind of find out more about that sort of thing. What else did I put? I was quite interested in whether the plans have changed post-COVID, because I think things look very different, don't they? Like, if these plans are kind of put together before COVID, has there been any development since then? I was even thinking about office space. Like, even as a lottery, like, we're literally closing all of our offices, which is just, is that still something that is needed? And I was just interested to know if it's linked to other regeneration elsewhere in Swindon, like other developments that obviously the council putting quite a lot of money into Morden and other spaces. And I was just wondering how that's all linked together, and there's just a lot going on, isn't there? So yeah, that was it. We're sure there's more, but I'm sure there's more from everybody. So
lots, sir. Just on the point around pandemic, has it changed anything? Yeah, the Zurich building going up. The Zurich have actually rejigged the internal layouts in that building, so more collaboration space, less old-fashioned office space. So they've actually rejigged the internal plans for that building. In terms of our approach, we had it in mind already around greening the town centre and focusing on our public realm, public spaces. So that was already in our mind. Maybe it was more attention than previously, possibly. I don't know what you think, Sam.
I was going to say that, interestingly, the plans, they've evolved, but ultimately what we're moving towards, that kind of mixed use, sustainable living, resilient organisations, lots of offer, that kind of fits with what we're trying to achieve anyway. So it was almost like the pandemic confirmed the direction we wanted to go in. So in terms of offices, you're right, the way offices will work will change, but I don't think, it doesn't remove the need for workspaces completely, but it just changes the way workspaces work internally, more collaboration spaces, more flexible spaces, more organisations coming together to pool resources. So in a way, this is quite timely, because it means that we can shape our offer to suit a post-COVID world rather than a pre-COVID world, which is, if these offers had come forward 2 years ago, it'd have been really problematic. But luckily, we've managed to talk to the people that are going to be occupying the end users and make sure the spaces really work for them, considering everything we've learned in the last 2 years. So yeah, it's been a big part of our plans, but it's confirmed our approach, but also we've had to tinker around the edges, like David used that example of Zurich, to make sure that things really work for them going forward.
I can't believe the time. Sorry. Oh my God. I'm sorry. Okay. Jack, sorry, we're going to run out of time. Jack. Oh, sorry, Jack, before I get to you, Pam, you got your hand up?
Talking to myself, sorry. I'm just going to point on, I was watching the time as well. Clearly we're not going to get round everybody in the time allocated. I don't know whether you want to just see if there's any burning questions. I mean, we can run on for another 5 minutes if people want to and are able to.
Yeah.
Can I just bring a question that I loved your presentation, by the way, but I will round up at the end. But a question that came by email that I promised I would forward was relating to two that haven't been mentioned actually, which is Regent Circus. Now Morrison's has gone and people have been moving out, and the Tented Market. And could you update on those two, please? And the specific suggestion relating to Regent Circus or Morrison's or a large unit like that, wouldn't it make a great central co-working space or a hub for small independent retailers, something like the Covered Market in Oxford? But those two sites, please, if there's any update. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Regent Circus, the Morrison's, yeah, the building itself and also the space outside the building, it could be used in so many different fantastic ways. We're engaging with Morrison's who own who have the long-term lease on that building, on it's actually more meanwhile uses for the building. So we're engaging on that. I've got no updates, sorry, for today. Tenant Market. Yeah, there was a scheme for, it was retail, food and beverage on the ground floor and resi above, as a significant scheme. Again, because of the pandemic, that stalled. I've got no updates on that either. But yeah, two very prominent sites, two key regeneration sites for the town centre, and we're working behind the scenes in both of them. But I've got no updates for you today. Sorry.
I think the only thing I build on that, Dave, is the interesting thing is everything we've shown you today is on land in ownership of SBC or properties that we own, because what we want to do is focus on the plans that we can have the biggest impact, and actually we have control over making sure we can actually deliver on them. Because the issues with things like Regent Circus is we just don't own them, so we can do our best to influence, we can do our best to enable change, but ultimately if we don't own the property, they'll be seeking their own ways of making sure they realise their own investment back, etc. So we're really working hard to use our existing assets, our existing land, to make sure we actually deliver on these changes. So when something happens in the future, like you lose a tenant, we have the ability to actually do something about it.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, the suggestion is that questions that we don't have time for today could come in email.
Yeah, we can happily answer those.
So are you guys happy to deal with that? If we, yeah?
Yes, please. Yeah, I'm just, Chris and Nasma have got their hands up, so happy to respond to, and Julian's got his hand up as well. Happy to respond to their questions here and now.
Okay, Chris, over to you.
Yeah, hi. I just want to make two quick points, partly for the Swindon Equality and Access Group and Swindon Seniors Forum and myself and my friends as well. Something we urgently, desperately need in Swindon Town Centre, now that we've lost all the blooming shops like Debenhams and BHS and what have you, is clothing that actually caters for maturer people, because everything is either sort of cheap and cheerful, well, or it's for young skinny people, and there just aren't any shops anymore that cater for clothing for older people. We've got to get something like that in the town centre, because we've just been totally neglected. It's become impossible to find anything that actually fits, you know, the maturer shape, especially if you're short like me. The other point I just, it's an idea with all this being able to move around what is in effect a very big area. I mean, it's great for walkers and cyclists, yes. I'm absolutely terrified about e-scooters coming into the town, but I don't know when that's going to happen, but it'll come. But is there any sort of scope for some sort of little, I don't know, rickshaw taxi service to actually get people around the different areas? Because there's a lot of people who don't use wheelchairs, don't have wheels, but have mobility problems. They can walk, but they can't walk long distances. And just being able to get sort of from one place to another around the place would just sort of, you know, a drop on, drop off sort of thing, would seem to me to cater for an awful lot of people who would come in to the town if they felt they'd be able to get around. That's me done.
I'll take the second away, Chris. Speak to transport colleagues about that. On the first, I think our role is to lay the foundations, the preconditions for shops to flourish in the town centre again, and a wide range of shops, and hopefully that way we'll get a much broader offer in the town centre. Are you missing Debenhams?
Well, yeah, and an M&S that used to cater for us but doesn't anymore.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I mean, we need to actively encourage something
Yeah, retail, bricks and mortar retail is not dead, absolutely not. And it's still got a really important role in the town centre going forward. And it's how we support town centre retailers and help them flourish and bring new ones into the town centre. It's a really important point, and it's something we're actually working on. But the second point around taxi type service for people getting around the town centre, I need to take that away. We'll speak to colleagues about that. Nazma?
Yeah. Hi, David. Good to see you again. My point again is on parking. So, I mean, again, like, you know, quite a lot of your presentations been on pedestrian. Like for myself, who is disabled, and have you got enough disabled parking around for people who cannot walk? I mean, I've heard what Chris just mentioned. Again, it would be a cost on people to actually use the service. So, I mean, some places you have trams. So, I mean, is there something that you would include for people, disabled people? So that's one question. The other question we've heard again about shops, and I am very much into the community. I mean, I've known you for quite some time back, right? We've worked together at some point, but it's like hearing people talking and hearing the comments they made, like Swindon is very cheap. And it's not just that people who are talking in Swindon, if you follow Facebook, you will see the amount of negative comments that people make when somebody is asking, like, you know, is it okay to move to Swindon? And it's very, very negative because, I mean, what we've lost has not been replaced at all with good quality shops. Like, you know, some of the shops that are gone being replaced with charity shops or £1 shop. And of course, then it does not look good for us. I've been talking to youngsters who said they are shopping outside Swindon because there's nothing for them in here. So, I mean, these are the sort of things we need to take into consideration with your regeneration and your projects. The other one that I was going to ask you, have you kind of included a one-stop shop? We had the one-stop shop in Havelock Street. It moved to Tyler and it disappeared. So it's services that have actually gone and not come back again. We need to look at those as well. And of course, there is the hydro, right? Because, I mean, again, the small pool was closed and it stopped families going to use that because, I mean, lots of people were taking their children, grandchildren into this pool. And then, I mean, this is again disappeared. So these are the kind of thing that, you know, what we've lost, what was doing and how beneficial it was for the Swindon people that we need to look at as well. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot there, Nazma. We need to get back to you in the one-stop shop and what the plans are for that. And you made a point again around civic pride and people talking down the sign. And I know it's shopping offer. People have gone to Bristol and Reading for donkey's years. But we've got an opportunity here with the town centre, and you're actually seeing a number of independent retailers, niche retailers coming into the town centre already. They're just maybe Commercial Road, Havelock Street. They're not as prominent but the town centre is transitioning. It's changing, and we're quite confident on the retail offer. Our in Swindon bid company are excellent. Their director is really good, Anita Bellinger. So we are through in Swindon really supporting the retail sector in the town centre and laying the foundations for it to flourish. But it'll look quite different than the past. It'll be less chain stores and more independents, more niche retailers. But I think that's probably a good thing.
I must add quickly that I'm very happy with the presentation, and I will be taking this out to my groups and so forth to let them know what is going to be done and how it's going to be done. So, I mean, that's the very positive, a very good presentation.
Okay, that's very, very kind, Nazma. I'm really conscious of the time. We're going to share the slides afterwards. Is anyone got any pressing questions? And as I say, we're happy to take email questions and respond that way.
Shall we just finish off with Julian then?
Yeah.
The last question, and then we'll close. So Julian, please.
Thanks. So my question really, I suppose, is thanks, David, and maybe Swindon Climate Action Network that we could organise another session, because I've got a whole session's worth of questions basically, and I can't do them now. Would that be amenable to you?
I'd love to have a session on climate change and the town centre.
That would be absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Yeah. All right, so I'll save my things for that. Any quick things here? Oh yeah, Karen, it would be good to know how to engage with your open day. Yeah, that's the only question I'll make now. Thank you.
Okay. I do apologise everyone for running late. I can't. The time just flies by. So I do apologise. We were supposed to go around twice as well. Never mind. Okay. Sorry. So I do apologise, Pam and Joel, but I'll pass you back to you guys.
Well, can I just say, absolutely no reason to apologise. It's been a fantastic session. So I want to say, I'm sure on behalf of everyone, a huge thank you, to David, Karen, and Sam for like opening the doors. And it's not hidden information, but as Pam said at the beginning, often we don't see it out there. I've got a bunch of notes, so we will send me an email. That's in the chat, but you've all got it because I send you emails the whole time. So any further questions that you want dealt with that way, if you haven't had a chance, mail them to me. I'm going to forward them to the team, and I'll get the answers back to you, or they'll get back to you directly. I think what's shone out for me is that there is a big role for the voluntary sector. One, picking up what Julian's question. How we can get involved and support. I mean, obviously, when it comes to finding volunteers for a range of things that Karen's looking for support with, I mean, that's where we're at. And Sue from the Volunteer Bureau, she's logged out and she had to go. But the organisations that we connect with, and we heard from Gemma from Dash already, there are many who would like to get involved, I'm sure. So I'll get back to your team, David, and to yourself to see how we can link in terms of volunteers and in terms of building that connection, because I think this has been a great way of us finding out that there are a bunch of issues where we could help and support you going forward. So on that note, I'm going to say a final thank you. Thank you to everyone who joined in this session. And I hope this is the first step in us, building our bridges and seeing how we can support the town centre development team in building the heart of Swindon that we all want to see.
Absolutely, Joel. And it's that grassroots. It's all about that we're all part of shaping this vision. This isn't just about us, this is about all of us. So yeah, thank you for that. Thanks for coming, guys. And thanks everybody. And see you next time. We're back here next week as well, if you want to join Baz Live. Okay, bye. Bye, thank you. Cheers.